Okay, it looks like we are live on Facebook and also recording for those who are tuning in through YouTube after this event. But welcome again to our leadership lunch. Today is Leadership IRL, Leadership in Real Life, featuring some of our student leader alumni from Stockton who were incredibly involved as undergrads, but have also continued to go on and make some positive changes in their workplace and in their community. We do have another panelist who may be joining us in just a few more minutes, but I do want to turn things over to our panel and get started. So why don't we go ahead and start with introductions? Okay, so who are our panelists today? I guess, Ellis, why don't you start us off? If you could tell us a little bit about yourself, what year you graduated, what your major was, things that you were involved with while you were at Stockton, and then what you do now.
Yes, awesome. Hi, I wasn't thinking I was going to go first, but hello, everyone. My name is Ellis Bonds. I use he, him, his pronouns. And currently, I serve as the Associate Director for Intercultural Affairs at Elizabethtown College in Elizabethtown, Pennsylvania. I graduated Stockton in December of 2015 with a Bachelor's of Arts in Liberal Arts, concentrating in social sciences. I was a social work major all the way up until the field work, and I didn't want to do it, so I switched my major. My minor was Africana Studies. Then I went on to get my master's in higher education administration from Florida International University in Miami, Florida. While I was at Stockton, oh God, the list. I started out as an EOF student, so those are my humble beginnings. EOF, Manar and I were in the same EOF class, 2011. So I got involved with AES&J, which is the Alliance of Educational Opportunity Fund Students of New Jersey. I was a sergeant in arms for that. I served as the corresponding secretary and treasurer of the Highest Praise Gospel Choir. I was the chapter president of Lambda Sigma Epsilon Latino Fraternity Incorporated for 3.5 years. I was Greek Council president. I served on the student senate as a regular senator and then the chair for academic policy. I think since then the committees have shifted, but that was the committee when I was on the Senate. I was vice president of Hope, helping other people excel. I was also president of the NAACP as well while I was at Stockton. And then my last semester at Stockton, I was blessed with the opportunity to be a student advisor to the Unified Black Student Society. So a lot of things I did at Stockton. I was also an RA. I was an orientation leader. I worked in the Office of Event Services and Campus Center Operations for 3.5 years. So a lot of stuff I did at Stockton. There was a whole lot going on in that 4.5 years, but nonetheless, amazing experiences. So I'm very happy to be here today.
Thank you, Ellis. Manar.
I had to go after that whole list. So my name is Manar Hussein. I'm currently a Ph.D. candidate at Montclair State University. I'm studying diversity, retention, and recruitment of teachers of color. My dissertation topic is specifically Muslim American female teachers. And I also have created, I truly believe in like social justice work starts with the youngest generation and especially in education. So I did leave the classroom. I taught for a while. And then currently during the pandemic, I started my own school pod. And it's very social justice oriented and it's Montessori school style. And so I do that in the morning, research in the afternoon, and I co-teach student teachers at night. And I graduated from Stockton in 2015. I was involved mostly with the Unified Black Student Society. Since my freshman year, I was like a member, then the cultural chief, and then I was president. And I helped establish the African Student Organization. I was in males, I was in females, I was a student senator, and I think that's about it. I did protest a few things and wanted to change a few policies while I was there. So I tried my best. I feel like that is part of my student involvement. And I really loved Stockton. I graduated with literature degree with a concentration in creative writing and a minor in Africana studies. And I genuinely like 110% believe that my involvement and my professors, both in the literature and Africana studies program, helped like the trajectory of my career right now. So I'm forever grateful to Stockton and my Stockton community.
Thank you so much. And I'm glad that you did mention all of the change making that you did while you were here. We're more than grateful for that. All right, Irvin.
Hi, thank you for having me today. I'm really honored to serve on this panel, and I was actually, I guess, in the same cohort with Ellis and Manar. So I feel like it's just a product of the environment that we were brought up in at Stockton. And I graduated in 2015, which with a bachelor's in criminal justice, but I actually minored in Holocaust and genocide studies. And I actually became the president of it was called Stockton Stand, and Stand stood for Students Taking Action Now Darfur. So it was an anti-genocide student-run coalition based out of Washington, D.C. And I had the privilege to serve as its president for 3 years here at Stockton. I was also a resident assistant. I actually worked as a student worker in the School of General Studies. And I was an intern and a volunteer in the Sarah and Sam Schofer Holocaust Resource Center. So why do I say that? Because I am now the program assistant here at the Sarah and Sam Schofer Holocaust Resource Center. So after I graduated, I spent some time in the criminal justice field. As my director, Gail Rosenthal, likes to say, I didn't like what I was doing, and I wanted to switch and shift tracks. And there was an opportunity here at Stockton that I applied for, and because of the experience, that the leadership skills and these other like interpersonal skills that I learned being a student here at Stockton, I believe that's what helped me in my career path, especially when I applied for the job here at Stockton. And of course, the internships, the volunteer experiences, and I guess the protests, as Manar would put it, really helped me gain those qualities. And I'm so happy that I came to Stockton.
That's wonderful. Thank you. And we're glad that you have chosen to stay at Stockton. You came and you didn't leave. All right. I guess in keeping up with that theme, let's go to Paige.
Hi everyone, my name is Paige Richards and my pronouns are she, her, hers. I just want to say thank you so much to Lauren and Jeff today for having me and to be on this amazing panel of so many great, amazing people. But yeah, I'm actually, I guess, the youngest. Wow, I can't believe that's so cool that you guys all know each other. And that's so awesome that you had mentioned the EOF program because I guess that will tie into my story actually very well. But I've actually graduated this past spring of 2020. So this is just like my first year after. But obviously I loved it so much because I actually still work here at Stockton University, and I currently work in our Stockton Center for Community Engagement and Service Learning as the AmeriCorps Change Builder Coordinator. And so a lot of my students who are change builders, we work with the Atlantic City EOF program. So we have over 150 students in the program, and about 130 of them are in the ACEOF program. So that's really cool. I get to meet other people who have been in this program before, and I can't wait to hear more about your stories today. But I guess some of the things I had done here in undergrad, as people were saying, I feel like everything that we've been involved in has really shaped our pathways and our careers that we're going into. But I was also a resident assistant. That's so cool to hear that other people have shared this experience with me. I was a resident assistant. I've done multiple research projects here at Stockton. I've been a part of 3 of them, just like being able to really connect with my science professors and work on all different kinds of things, whether it be the genetics of yeast or even the fertility of duck eggs. Like, it's so crazy to think that I can now, I guess, put that in my resume or even have a chance to talk about things like that. But I've been a part of multiple honor societies here on campus, whether it be Alpha Lambda Delta or even because of the nomination of some of my connections I've had with my professors and my research, I was able to be a part of the ASBMB National Honor Society, which is like the American Society of Biology and Molecular Biology. I someone had mentioned criminal justice. I actually work at our Stockton CSI camp, which is happening this summer, again, for the first time in person since the pandemic. So we're super excited about that. And I'm also their public relations. What really started my service is during my undergrad, I had worked in our Stockton Center for service learning, and now we had merged with the Center for Community Engagement as well. But I had gone through their Bonner Leader program, and just through that, I was able to really get involved in my service and become part of their leadership team, whether that's the Bonner leadership team, and then eventually move to their senior intern. And that is where they actually had mentioned to me, right now I'm currently in my journey of just studying for medical school and looking to apply this year. But in my gap year, I'm actually doing that AmeriCorps job. And again, just my experience in the office, I would have never known about taking a service year, but having all those experiences and recommendations from being in the honors program or being in a bunch of different clubs at Stockton, it's really allowed me to reflect on my service, but also hopefully become a better physician as well as I learn about the local communities here in Galloway.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Paige. And then last but not least, Vinh Dang.
Hey everyone, thanks for having me on today. Apologies for coming a little late. But yeah, my name is Vinh. I use he, his pronouns. I graduated Stockton in 2018 with a degree in biology. I literally just moved to Philadelphia yesterday for a new job here at the Children's Hospital. But aside from my like science stuff, I do a lot of activism with the East Coast Asian American Student Union. It's a 501c3 nonprofit organization working to help support Asian Americans and Pacific Islanders here along the East Coast at the student level. And yeah, and at Stockton, I was the president of the Asian Student Alliance.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Vinh. So I have a few questions for our panelists today, but of course, if anyone on the call would like to ask our panelists some questions, you can absolutely put them in the chat as they come up and we'll definitely get them addressed. So I'll go ahead and start by asking some questions and we can kind of jump around. We don't need to go in a specific order. We can kind of just jump in as you naturally see fit. But what would you say, like what accomplishment were you most proud of during your time at Stockton?
I'll go. I think that I think I've accomplished a lot of things, but I think my freshman year, I got student of the year, and it was really because of a program, and it was called Remember One, and it's based off of the blue eye, brown eye experiment. I forgot the woman's name, Jane something, I believe. So I apologize for that, but I had just started at Stockton and I got exposed to that experiment and I really wanted to do it on the students, and everyone was like, oh, you can't do that because, that's not how research works. And I remember I went to the student development office, like we worked out all of the issues. Males and UBSS fully funded the project, and I was a freshman, so like usually, in high school you enter as a freshman and you're like a nobody, right? And so like in college you enter and I'm like, oh my God, all of these Greeks and students are like doing so much, no one's gonna listen to me. And I felt so much support from the clubs, and it actually ended up getting program of the year, and we had more than like 100 participants. I still have pictures, like Ellis was there, we all had our shirts, and it was really successful and I think impactful. And I'm not most proud of it because it got the award, but it really just showed what could happen when we do support ideas from people that might be more likely overlooked, especially if they're younger, especially, if they don't have a reputation on campus yet. And I feel like not only did student development take a risk with me, but like seniors and juniors and my peers, everyone from EOF came out. And it was my first sense of creating like community and how much could happen with community. And it also exposed me to other people that I ended up doing so many more programs with, right? Like that was one huge program that we started out with. And I think because of that, there were so many people that bonded. And over the next 3 years, it didn't matter if what, like, I became an LTA, other people became other types of Greeks. We were all in different clubs, but what I really appreciated is that we always came back together. If, someone had a fashion show or if someone had a charity event, we all went. And so I hold that, like, I still have the plaque and stuff, and it's like one of my favorite because I think it really showed like what we wanted to do in the beginning, and we sustained it all the way until we graduated.
I would definitely hop in. I have two. One would be I don't know how many people know this actually, but I wrote a paper my junior year for my social work class with Dr. Cologne. Dr. Maria Cologne was my professor. And I was struggling with a topic for the paper because, college papers, you do them like they're like drinking water at that point when you're a junior. And I wrote a paper on minority male, specifically Black male retention at predominantly white institutions. And I gave the paper to Stephen Davis, and he read it. And Stephen Davis is now the Dean of Students, if I'm correct. If I'm not mistaken, I think he's the Dean of Students now at Stockton. Right back then, he was the Assistant Dean of Students. And he read the paper and he was like, wow, this is some insightful stuff. And through a couple conversations and a couple meetings, that was like some of the foundation work for what is now Sankofa. And like that has like flourished into something that's so amazing and so great. And not that I was like the person who started it, but I remember giving him that paper and having those conversations and saying like, we should really think about doing something here. And I wouldn't be there to see it, obviously, because you have to graduate at some point in time. I didn't want to graduate, but I had to. And so now that's something that is so awesome that happens at the institution that's like created for minority males to be retained on campus and like an extra network of support for them. And then two, it's something really simple. I became Greek Council president my senior year at Stockton. And I had my first meeting with Joe Thompson and he just said to me, something's wrong with Meet the Greeks. And I said, I know what's wrong with Meet the Greeks. No one's actually meeting anyone because everyone's worried about what's going on stage. And so now until this day, obviously outside of COVID and things like that, the Meet the Greeks has now become a separate event. And so we actually have, they have a tabling event for Meet the Greeks. And then we created a yard show just for performances. And so students have now had time to meet people, interact with them, engage with them, talk with them, because recruitment is a really big part of our organizations. And also we love performing for those of us who belong to culturally based organizations. So stepping, strolling, saluting, and things of that nature. And so we had a chance to honor that space as well and like create that culture. So those would be the two things, yes, that I'm proud of. I definitely agree with Manar. We had such a strong community when we were at Stockton. It was amazing. The support was like absolutely phenomenal. No one was like too big or too small to hop in and just do something. If you needed me to read a sentence at a microphone, I do it. I didn't care. And so I think that kind of stuff has like definitely helped me now in my career in higher education.
So I don't mind going next, I guess. I don't know. And just before we move on, Paige, I was actually also in the honors program. My director at that time was Dr. Rosner, so we have some connection there. But yeah, there are two major events. I do want to speak about the 1 Million Bones project, which was a project that was actually started by a Stockton alumni, Naomi Natale. And this project, really, she wanted to bring, at that point, attention to the genocides going on around the world. Obviously there was Darfur, and so what she wanted to do to bring attention to it was she wanted to collect bones from across the country and display them on the National Mall in Washington, D.C. And here at Stockton, well, I was a part of STAND. I was not president at that point, but we took the initiative And in the campus center, I guess by Dunkin' Donuts, we set up a station, and we had students from Stockton, and we brought in Residential Life and Water Watch. I remember partnering up with them, and we had created over 250 bones made out of like this plaster, and we made a huge mess in the campus center, and I felt terrible about that. But we were able to create these bones and then transport them to Washington, D.C., and help install them on the National Mall with Professor Wendell White. And I thought that was just such a significant, I guess, event, I guess, for genocide awareness and remembrance. And to plug, genocide is still going on in the world. This is something that we still struggle with every day. But I was so glad that Naomi, a fellow Osprey, took the initiative to do this wonderful project. And I was so proud to be a part of it, a small part, because her goal was to collect 1 million bones. So 250. I was not a math major, so I don't know what percentage that was, but I was so happy that Stockton was able to be a part of that event. And the other event, I guess, or thing I want to talk about was the hashtag Save Our Stowboat sort of protest on the boardwalk. I guess I don't have to say too much about that, but it was one of the greatest moments of my life, being among friends, faculty, staff. And actually, that's how I made a lot of my contacts that I still call to this day. And you never know who you're going to need, who you're going to call, who you need to network with. So any time that I need help, at least in Atlantic City or Atlantic County, I call a lot of these contacts that I made when we were protesting the covenant that was enforced when Stockton bought the showboat to try to turn it into a residential sort of housing complex and campus. And yeah, I think I saw Jeff that he still has the poster. I still have the shirt, talking about shirts, Manar. We made shirts for that as well. So those are just two of the things that I want to highlight.
I guess going off of everyone's trended too, there are two that do come to mind. Myself, one would be, I guess, more similar to like what others are speaking, and then the other one would be kind of personal, close to my heart. Maybe not a huge impact, but even if I can make a change in like one person's day, I think that's like what resonates with me the most for that experience. But I guess the first one, I guess I'm most proud of just all the work that I've done here with our Stockton Center for Community Engagement and Service Learning. Again, when I had started here at Stockton, we were just the Office of Service Learning, and we were down in F009. I don't know if you guys know where that is, but it used to be where the old science labs were, and our office was just like the size of a closet. But now we're up here in B106. We actually like have a window, we can see sunlight, and we have our own little offices, which is crazy to think. But just being a part of that Bonner Leader program, it opened so many different opportunities to me. And through my work with the office and just the development of like those leadership programs, like when I had started, I remember I was interested in becoming a Bonner leader. I walked down to the office and I told them I was interested, and they had me sign paperwork, and I started on Monday. But now our program has just grown so much from when I started, and there was only like 10 of us total. Now we have almost like 40 students involved, and we have like I was able to create that leadership team, and that the processes and the policies and procedure as we move forward with like hiring and like becoming a more developed school, and just going to their different conferences and learning about how other Bonner leader schools, they have over 200 people in the program, and like that we can even consider that, or we can dream about that. And we were actually even considering hosting like the National Bonner Conference sometime in the future. I think that's just so amazing, especially from where we had started. And just because of all my work with that, they had actually nominated me as the Newman Civic Fellow. And I was able to go to that national conference too, and just speak about our work and speak about our program and how far we've come. So I can definitely say that even though it's a sister program with my Change Builder program now, the Bonner Leaders, we still work very closely with them in this office, and they're like a student-run organization here, and they don't really have an advisor. They do their meetings every week, and just all the things that they do in creating these projects for other students on campus to get involved. I can certainly say I'm just proud of like seeing where we started and how far we've come. I guess the other thing I'd mentioned, something that's close to my heart, just having been a science major, I forget if I mentioned it, I was actually a biology major with a concentration in pre-professional studies, and I'm looking to go to med school. But I guess something I'm very proud of just like during my undergrad is I remember it was during my last semester and I was able to graduate in 3 years, and I was scared, but also, like, happy. But in my last semester, I had taken a creative writing course, and I don't know if any of you realize, but, like, just for a science major, all my classes, I feel like out of the 8 classes I had, 7 of them were always science. So going to a creative writing class, I had no clue what to expect or even if I'd be good at it, because a lot of what you do for research is, scientific writing. It's very dry, it's very to the point, and what's called when you're trying to publish, they don't want any extra detail unless you're analyzing it and they want you to get to the point. So that creative nonfiction course was so intimidating for me. But my final paper, and I don't know if any of you know her, but I'd highly recommend the course. It is with Judy. Oh my God. Oh, Judy Copeland is it. She is one of my favorite professors here at Stockton. But it had happened when we had just started the pandemic and the university had shut down. So I actually wrote my final reflection, my final paper on my experience and just like mental health, my service, like my whole life, going throughout my whole life, and then it ending with COVID. And since then, she's actually invited me to go back and speak to her classes and not only read my essay to them, but just talk about like where I got my inspiration. But it was so like touching. And I feel like why I'm most proud of that is one of the students had even asked me afterwards, like, how could I be so honest, just talking about mental health, talking about the pandemic. And she was saying that it really got her through, or like, it's nice to see someone else was feeling that way, even like a year later. But just knowing that I made that difference, I know that's like a personal moment that I was like really proud of.
Yeah, I think I'll go on with the trend with the 2 events that were really exciting for me. So I think when I joined ASA, in the beginning, it was more of like a social environment. It was really cool to like learn about the different cultures within like the Asian American community. But then when I became president, I really wanted to highlight the importance of like activism and understand like identity and culture. And so we had gone to this annual conference that we have every year, which is called, ECAASU, the East Coast Asian American Student Union. And my year, we had brought the biggest crowd and no one had ever heard of Stockton. And I wanted to make sure that when we left, everyone knew like who Stockton was. Shout out to Renee, because she was there. And we'd get her like in summer cookies and stuff. So that was fun. But yeah, it was really cool to bring that aspect into, ASA and talk about, what does it mean to be like Asian American and like the different intersectionalities that are involved with that. So I think that was like one of my favorite things. But yeah.
That's awesome. Well, thank you all so much for sharing. I think it is undeniable that you've all left your impact on kind of shaping campus life at Stockton. When I hear Ellis talk about the paper that he wrote and how that's turned into something that is, now so woven into the fabric of our campus. I didn't know that you wrote that paper, Ellis, and so that was something new that I learned today. And just hearing all of your contributions are really so inspiring. So thank you so much for sharing. I guess to kind of shift a little bit from your undergrad experience into the different experiences that you're doing now. How did your leadership experience at Stockton help to prepare you for, I don't want to call it the real world because Stockton is the real world, but how did your leadership experience help to prepare you for life after Stockton? And again, we don't have to go in the same order, so whoever wants to jump in first, feel free.
Yes, I can definitely take that one first. Yeah, Stockton was a time and a half. And don't get me wrong, while I was at Stockton, and I'm sure Manar would agree with me because we ran in a lot of the same circles, I critiqued Stockton to the T while I was a student there. And I'm not ashamed to say that, but I would definitely say that I would not be like where I'm at in my career without my experiences that I had at Stockton. So like, I definitely celebrate the experiences that I had and experiences that were provided to me through my time there. But definitely, I would say one thing that has helped me a lot is the ability to hold students accountable. I work in higher education. I did residential life for, I graduated in 2015. I did residential life for about 4 years, and now I transitioned out of residential life and I work in diversity, equity, and inclusion work. And Jen Renwansky is on the call, and one story particular comes to mind is that I applied to be an orientation leader in 2013. Jen stopped me on the stairwell in the campus center. If you know where the information desk is, it's a stairwell that leads right upstairs. She stopped me on the stairwell, told me to apply, and I said sure. My line brother, Matt Olmstead, who's another alum of Stockton, was the head orientation leader along with Beth Janansky. And I applied not thinking nothing of it, whatever the case may be. What Jen didn't know was that I wasn't going to class because I was too busy trying to be an activist and protest and go to these club meetings and all this other kind of stuff. So, my first semester, that's that year. So that would be fall 2012. I think I got all C's that semester in my classes. And then the second semester, I applied for the orientation leader position, did the interview, got hired. And I think I got 2 B's, a B minus, a C plus, and then I got a D. So the D was like it just brought it way, way down, was not where it needed to be at. And so I got the grades back and I saw my GPA, and the requirement to be OL was a 2.5. I had a 2.54. So I literally just made the cut. And so Jen pulled me in her office because I always worked on campus over the summer times, personal home things, was not trying to go home to do that. And so Jen pulled me in her office and she talked to me and she let me know, Jen's the sweetest woman in the entire world. For those of you who don't know, she's so sweet and so nice and so caring, so nurturing. But she said to me, let this be the last time that I'm literally struggling with offering you this position or keeping you in this role because you have this GPA. And I was like, oh, yeah, this is a tough one. I probably should have did better in classes. Yeah. And so I remember I went through that summer, I did the orientation program. I applied to be the head OL thinking that I was this great person. And I didn't get it. I did not get accepted to be the head OL the first time. And then the junior year, I hit the ground running. I made the dean's list both semesters. I was not playing. I was trying to get this position. So I came back that summer, did the OL position again, and then I got hired to be the head OL. And then that same summer, Jen was like, I want to say that I'm proud of you because you took the feedback that I gave you. I held you accountable, and now look what you're doing. So I think for me, it's about being able to give students that challenge and support. We talked a lot about that in student development theory. And that's what I've learned how to do through that experience. I mean, multiple experiences too, because I'm sure Miss Renee can give you some things, Joe can give you some things, Lauren Wilson can tell you some things. Everybody here that's worked with me at Stockton know that I was acting a little crazy while I was there. But yes, I definitely able to hold students hold students more accountable a lot more now because of that experience that I had at Stockton. And students get a little antsy because they're oh, maybe you're being too forward, maybe you're being a little tough, but when they graduate and they come back, they're oh, this is what you were trying to teach me then, and now they understand it. So I would say holding students accountable is the thing that one of the main things I took away from Stockton.
I really appreciate you sharing all that, Ellis, because I think all students act a little crazy here and there, and and that's part of the growth and development of being in college. And obviously, you're at a place where you did some amazing things, and we even invited you back to speak. So it obviously is a growth and development process, and I appreciate you sharing some of those messier times because student leaders still experience those, and I appreciate you kind of sharing those lessons and how you've grown from those experiences.
I was going to go after Ellis only because it's very tied because we were very similar in our undergrad. I think that I owe it to Stockton to exposing me to the idea of education. I come from a family of teachers and I swore up my entire life. Both my parents used to be teachers. 3 of my sisters are teachers. I was never going to be a teacher. Absolutely not. I'm going to be something else. And I think that at Stockton, like Ellis said, when you're a student leader, especially when you feel you're truly fighting for something, you do end up sacrificing your GPA or things that you should be doing because other students don't have the same, dilemma of being passionate about something that is close to their identity and, something that has nothing to do with if we were at Stockton or not, right? If Ellis and I were not at Stockton, we would still be experiencing societal's flaws and how it treats people. And so I think that at Stockton, we had the opportunity and the exposure to people that understood that. And I had professors that really understood that this is something I wasn't willing to negotiate or give up. And so they supported me in finding, okay, you are passionate about this, but like, how are we going to apply it to real life? And one of my favorite courses that I took was with Emily DiGiorgio, who I owe a lot to. I mean, she was amazing. I got a really bad grade freshman year in her class, and I used to participate in her class, and I loved her poetry class. And I just really was busy trying to do everything else that I ended up not getting a so good grade. And I was so ashamed because I looked up to her that I just never went into the last class, never spoke to her again. And I was like, if I see her, I'm just going to run the other way. And she actually found me on Facebook, and she was just like, are you avoiding me? Like, and, but it was the fact that, now that I work at a university and now that I do research, like, I understand the workload and the amount of care and that someone is going, as a professor, is going to put, everything on pause and think of a student. And so she mentored me all throughout my college career. And my GPA was not the greatest graduating, to be honest, but I ended up going to this interview in Newark for a teaching position. And a woman walked by, and my resume was on the table, and it was like, I really wanted to show everything that I've done at Stockton. And she looked at it, and she was just like, would you be interested in doing a master's at NYU through this like residency program that I was interviewing for a job position in? And I was like really heartbroken, because I was like, I'm never gonna get into NYU with this GPA. And she looked at everything, and she asked me to talk about Stockton. Like, why was my GPA like this? If obviously, like, at Stockton, I was having a blast and I was involved in all of these things. And I explained it to her. And I think that it makes me a better educator now, because I understand that not all students are carrying the same thing when they walk into a building. Like, people have given me a chance when I wanted to, be passionate about a club, and I feel like this was so important for students. It's not like the professor failed me and was just like, the student is careless, she doesn't care. Like, she saw that, I needed a little bit more support. And then again, Stockton making sure that I had these avenues to express myself. And like Ellis said, yes, we can critique a place, but now that I am in education, there are so many stories and so many scenarios that I hear at other universities, and I'm like, oh my God, like, if we would have done the things that we would have done in other universities, we would have, not been listened to. Some of the things that around the country turn violent, professors don't care. I see some of the emails that got posted during the pandemic. I mean, I've had college professors from Stockton check on me during the pandemic, and I have graduated in 2015, compared to seeing, some of the things that are happening around the US right now, where, students are failing, they get no support from staff or professors. And so I think that Stockton, most of all, just humanized the experience, that it makes me reconsider how I treat people. How are they coming into this space? What are they fighting for? What do they want to succeed at? And I always go back to, I wouldn't be here without those chances. Therefore, I have to pay it forward somehow by giving my students chances.
I think I just want to echo what Manar and Ellis were talking about, because my time at Stockton, I really learned how to care. And that's something difficult. And I think more people need to learn how to care for one another and for each other. And Manar, yeah, I was Emery's TA for a semester, so I definitely know where she's coming from. And my gosh, did we sit down some days and we're like, how do we help this student out, or how do we help this other student out? And it really was a struggle for me. But yeah, from faculty in the Holocaust and Genocide Studies program, and staff from student development, my gosh, do they care? Especially, Ellis highlighted Jen, I was also an orientation leader, and the hours that she spent, caring for the students coming through the program, and every morning, just I could see her just, thinking about what needs to happen that day so that every student that walks through Stockton's doors gets that 5-star experience. I definitely, it's to care, and that's what Stockton taught me, and that's what I took out into the field, and I think that's a rarity, and it was quite refreshing when I went into other roles, into other positions before I came back to Stockton. So, you guys hit it, the nail on the head. It's definitely caring.
I feel like this conversation has gone so perfectly because everything all the other panelists have said so far has just tied in to exactly what I was thinking, and talking about just like professors giving you a chance, or just like having such a supportive community here at Stockton. I feel like that's really has what allowed me to grow as an individual, because when Lauren originally had said the question, I was like, oh, I guess like the biggest lesson I've learned from Stockton is you essentially get out what you put in. I feel like everyone tells you that. They tell you that your first week here at Stockton of like get involved, and like I feel like as a freshman going in, I remember having the same experience of like, oh, like should I get involved? What to get involved in? I didn't know how far I could stretch myself or how many things I should like be part of. But then just having that supportive community at Stockton is really what allowed me to flourish, or to feel safe and secure, and like wanting to put in more and to be involved in different things. And I feel like the perfect example of that was going through like that first week of orientation as a freshman. I had signed up for all these clubs. It's like, oh, it's like what every freshman does when they're like, I'm gonna go to the gym every day. I'm not gonna gain that freshman 15. I'm gonna sign up for 5 clubs and ace all my classes. And I remember I was struggling so much my first semester, and I was actually the same semester that my mom had been diagnosed with breast cancer. And so it was just difficult, like just adjusting to college life. And even though like my real house is like down the street from Stockton, I lived on campus to get that experience. But like going through that and going through home struggles, personal struggles, like learning just to make friends and what to be involved in and to handle classes, all those things, I feel like I was in such a bad place. But then having the support of like my professors, my friends, like people who did reach out to me, a professor that can recognize that like I know you know this material, but why is it not showing? And them scheduling meetings with me and just recognizing that, even though I thought I was just a face of one of 35 in my science class, I feel like that's what's really like moved me. And getting involved, I think, um, just tying it back to the office, that fall semester, trying to learn like where I should channel everything, or like um you get out what you put in. Instead of just being sad about it, I really thought about like, oh, like what could I do, or what can I do regarding a topic that is now like really personal and hits home to me, about like dealing with breast cancer, not necessarily yourself, but being that support system for others. That's when I found out about the service learning office, and I had met my advisor now, Erin, and our other advisor, I know Ellis, you had said Dr. Meridewilda Clone. She's our director now of our merged center. So I get to work with her every day. It's super awesome. But what's called I think Erin is just like a perfect example of a faculty member that has supported me. She's actually my best friend's mom, and Erin lives down the street from me too. But just I didn't realize she had worked at Stockton, and when I saw her when I walked into that office, and she had told me that like, oh, this office is always here for you, and I can actually create my own project as a Bonner leader and really emphasize like anything that I want to do that can support breast cancer, and that I can work along with ZTA. And now we have like a yearly Team Stockton University that really shows students that you don't only have to be part of the sorority. Yes, we work with them, but just anyone who has a tie to that, whether you're a survivor or just someone supporting a survivor, you know, someone who's passed away, like you can be part of our team and walk with us and like meet other individuals who may be going through the same thing as you. I think I never would have been able to like put myself out there, or like wanting to even start that program and what got me involved in service learning, if I didn't have the professors or the support of the professional staff to tell me like, we have your back, whatever program you want to do, whatever outreach and fundraising you want to do, we're here to support you and we can get you those resources. I think all of those factors of just having such a tight-knit and caring community really allowed me to grow and to be willing to take those chances, because I know that there will always be someone that will have my back.
Yeah, again, I think echoing all the panelists here today, Stockton provided such a safe environment to really learn and grow as an individual. But I do want to highlight like one of my favorite things, I guess, would be the ability to just reach across to like different organizations and build that solidarity across, all the other organizations. And, I think the importance is like being able to pay it forward. There are a lot of times where orgs are like, hey, just like come out, like bring folks and have a good time. And I think that's something I've really taken in a lot of the work that I'm doing now with ECAASU and a lot of different orgs. But yeah, I don't want to feed a fed horse, but yeah, I think just the environment of Stockton has been super supportive.
That's great. Thank you all so much for sharing. And I see Jeff is putting a reminder for all students who are on the at this program today to please click the link and capture your attendance. At the end of the program, we'll be doing a little giveaway for some Grubhub gift cards. You don't have to be present to win. I know we're getting close to 1 o'clock. I am still going to ask maybe one more question from our panelists. And then if there's questions that our audience members have or things that you wanted to share, go ahead and put that in the chat, or if you're on Facebook, go ahead and add that in the comments. I'm kind of monitoring both. So you talked about your accomplishments at Stockton, talked about the lessons that you learned as you kind of entered your next adventure. I guess to kind of close it out, what's one of your greatest accomplishments after leaving Stockton, or in what ways have you made positive change, either with the organizations that you're working with or in your work environment currently? I'm kind of mashing two questions into one. So greatest accomplishment after leaving Stockton and how you've made positive change.
I can go first because I feel like I've been sticking with the routine. So I think one of my, it's in the works right now, but we're working with an organization in Connecticut right now to introduce a bill to promote Asian American Pacific Islander studies at the K through 8 level. And it's getting a lot of support. And honestly, a lot of that bill and the education framework around that has come off of a class I took at Stockton, which was the literature in Asia Pacific with Dr. Adam Yashiro. And so I think that's been something that's been my pride and joy so far. And then also I'm shooting a documentary about different Asian Americans and Pacific Islanders across the country, which is really cool, and highlighting stories of marginalized communities and how they're not sticking to the model minority myth, even though I think I'm definitely sticking to the model minority myth in terms of going to med school. But I think it's important to highlight stories that kind of represent Asian Americans and Pacific Islanders in a different light that not everyone gets to see. So that's super exciting.
We're having some of those same conversations as we gear up to kick off our Asian American and Pacific Islander Heritage Celebration. So keep us posted about that documentary. And once it's all done, maybe we can bring you back to Stockton for a program.
Yeah, for sure. We're trying to send it to Sundance for next year. So
that's awesome.
We'll definitely give y'all some feedback.
Cool. Good luck with that.
I can go. My greatest accomplishment after Stockton, wow. I think for me, there's like a personal thing. For many people who were on the call that worked at Stockton or were students with me, I see Chrissy Easton on the call as well. We were students together also. One personal thing that was an accomplishment for me is that I came out to my parents after I graduated Stockton. And that was a whole debacle that I had to work through myself, like mentally and like all of that kind of stuff. And I'm sure like Miss Renee is smiling because she remembers the office talks that I had with her for 4.5 years straight about that situation. I would say in terms of like fraternally, I did get the opportunity to serve as the first executive director of Lambda Sigma Epsilon Latin Fraternity Incorporated. which was amazing. I was not able to stay in the position due to like some personal things that I had to like prioritize over that. So I had to like exit out of it, but I did do it for about a solid like 4 or 5 months. And just being able to like work with different colleges and universities and see how Greek advisors work and all of that kind of stuff. And like, it made me have a different appreciation for what Joe Thompson does. Cause like, I think a lot of times we don't really see it as students. We just think, oh, like they don't care, or oh, whatever the case may be, or like they're not doing this much or whatever. And then like when I got in that role and had to work directly with college administration, I was like, oh, they're doing a whole lot of stuff that I just didn't know about. So I got to do that. And then I would just say for me, anywhere that I go, I like to leave my mark. And so I worked at the University of New Hampshire for about a year and a half. And while I was there, I started this program called Fireside Chats. Every building, UNH is a very old school, and so all the buildings are extremely old and all of them have fireplaces in them. And so we would like start a fire in the fireplace, have like hot chocolate, s'mores, all that stuff. Obviously, they're not doing that now because COVID's a thing. But when I was there, we did it, and we would talk about real world issues and things that were going on that affected our students, mostly as it related to marginalized identities. And making sure that our students of color like were supported and things of that nature. And then when I went to Rowan and worked in residential learning and university housing, I started what is called the Ubuntu Collective. And for those of you who don't know, Ubuntu means I am because we are. And so it was an idea that we're going to do this work collectively and talk about these topics of diversity, equity, and inclusion in our department. And now at Elizabethtown College, I have created what is called the Ujima Dialogue that is now like institutional wide. And it's not just for like one siloed department. And we have talks weekly. We just had a conversation regarding the hashtag Stop Asian Hate. And it was like so well attended and so just the solidarity and the allyship that was present like in that space, even on Zoom, was like just amazing to see. So just really being able to like leave my mark on different things that I have, like different places that I've gone and different things that I'm able to do. And then also I've gotten to like get more into my spoken word artistry and like writing more poetry and like wanting to start performing and things of that nature.
I can go next. I think one of the things that has made me at least sleep a little bit better each night is, when New Jersey, when Governor Phil Murphy signed the driver's license for all bill. And I couldn't have done that without my brother, Christian Moreno, who I know is watching via Facebook or YouTube Live. And really that it's the skills that I learned at Stockton, to care, to network, and really to just work together to get something passed. And we were able to do that with a variety of different organizations. I by no means was a spearheader at all, but when you want significant legislation passed, you have to get everybody on board, right? And everybody has to do their part. And so we were there, with Governor Murphy when he signed the legislation in May that will hopefully start to come to fruition with all the DMVs. Unfortunately, COVID has impacted the way that they were able to roll out. But really, a lot of the negativity that came from it had to do with xenophobia and anti-immigrant sentiment. But when that bill passed the next day, I got a call from somebody and they thanked me. I didn't know them. And they thanked me for the work that we were doing in the area to pass that bill. And I said, why? I asked him, like, are you undocumented or and he's like, no, I'm a homeless veteran, and this bill will help me get that driver's license that I needed. And I was so caught up. It was my own ignorance as well. I was so caught up in just a specific group that I didn't realize all the other groups in New Jersey that this bill will help. And so really, I just have to thank Stockton for giving me those skills to work and definitely conflict resolution, and to battle that negativity with that Stockton smile. So I always think about that every day. It's just to give that Stockton smile.
I keep thinking like I should go first because everyone's doing such amazing things. And it's hard to follow up. I think that I don't want to say I want to say that in the future my biggest accomplished is going, hopefully, I need good vibes, prayers, everything, finishing my doctoral degree, because I came to Stockton really doubting my abilities. I was really intimidated by college. I didn't always have like the best relationship with school because I was an ESL student, so I've always been really intimidated. And I ended up getting a literature degree and then a master's in English. So I really want this, not because of the title, but I really want it because women, especially women of color, and we know how, you know, our world is, we don't necessarily get heard. And unfortunately, the world's not like Stockton, where they heard little freshman Manar with her idea. And I think that I'm hoping that finishing this degree opens doors for me that I will keep open for others, and that I can give someone a chance, even if they don't have the title doctor, even if they are new to the scene, even if they're, you know, not as established. So that's like a future thing that I'm really hoping. And I do want to shout out my first graders right now, because I think that they have taught me more than, you know, I've taught fifth grade, seventh grade, high school. I'm teaching university students, but nothing teaches you love, patience, care like first graders. They just have been amazing. And I teach them in person, and with their little masks, and they just remind me of how easy it is for students to know and do the right thing, and that adults are really the ones that complicate things in society. And so I teach them, you know, we talk about race, religion, gender, all of these identities, and you know, when they learn something new, they're like, okay, there's no like, you know, they're like so eager to include everyone. And I feel like if we actually like listen to children more, um and notice what they notice, we'll learn a lot and we'll have like a better world. And they laugh, they don't take themselves seriously, they just like, you know, take on the world. And they know, they're very what I love about them is that we don't ignore the bad things that are happening in society, but they're always willing to point it out more than adults, right? Like we get this filter the more we grow older. First graders don't have that filter. You know, I read a book that's outdated and they tell me like, why aren't there any brown people? And they're all like white children. And so like, it's like, wow, you understand at that age, you know, that something is problematic, or they want to learn about everybody else. And so it makes me realize that everything in our society is taught, and naturally we're not bad. We just develop these, you know, ideologies. And so my first graders have very much inspired me. And I know everything that I teach them is because of everything that I've learned at Stockton. And I had to unlearn a lot of things, a lot of problematic things that I knew my whole life. And so I think that unlearning, we're always all unlearning, right? Like none of us are perfect. And so like unlearning, but getting to see also how we can pass it down. And I'm hoping that they've inspired me to write a children's book. And so I will dedicate it to them. But I really think that they've inspired me to venture beyond education and using education of children to educate adults. We need to, you know, flip the world a little bit and have the children tell us what they want in their future.
That's so amazing, Manar. That's certainly why I want to do pediatrics. Like, what's it called? Children are just so amazing. And like you said, I appreciate it so much that they don't have a filter. I feel like that's what would be so refreshing, and why I think that would just like inspire me and make me happy every single day. Um, but I guess going off of that, like, I guess I'm most proud of, since I had left Stockton, I'm still here. But since my undergrad experience was I guess just like learning delayed gratification and maturing in life. I feel like I'd be more proud of that. I wasn't too excited about taking a gap year, or I didn't know what I was going to do. I was so excited. I'm like, oh, I'm young, I can do anything. But then, as I was trying to apply last year to medical school, I'd realized my scores weren't where they needed to be, and I was so worried. Like, oh my gosh, like I was like, I'm going to be old when I apply. I'm going to be 22, and I was like, oh my gosh, and I was really, really freaking out about that. But just again, like I said before, what the thing I learned at Stockton was like making the most of your experiences, and that's like what it's going to be. I feel like that has also inspired now of learning that sense of delayed gratification, because in that gap year, I would have never had all the experiences of the service year that I have now, and had the chance to plan like our Stockton MLK Day of Service. And I feel like that huge event mirrored my growth and learning delayed gratification, because I don't know if any of you have ever planned an event that was supposed to be, it's usually intended for over like 1,500 people, but because of the pandemic, this was the first year that we did like half online and half in person. But even an event intended for 400 or 500 people, I did not realize that you start planning at least 6 months ahead, and physically going through that and learning how to be like, okay, well, in 6 months, we're going to need catering, we're going to need all these things, and learning delayed gratification like in person and practicing it. I feel like that also mirrored my what I was going through internally, and just learning like, okay, I need to study for an exam that's now going to be a year away, but I can't give up on that. Like, I gotta just know who I am as a person, and like being wanting to still grow in that meantime, and not just be like, oh, I'll study a month before my exam and probably go through the same thing of what happened to me in the fall, which is why I didn't get that score, because I thought I could just study for a month and be like, okay, it'll be exactly like undergrad, and it's not. And I feel like just all these experiences that I was not necessarily, I'm not gonna say prepared, but not necessarily expecting, didn't think, when people are like, where do you see yourself in 5 years? I would never have said like, oh, I'm gonna take a service year, I'm gonna take a gap year. I thought I would just truck all the way through, but just learning that delayed gratification and actually like being proud of it. I know a lot of people, I feel like it's kind of controversial, like taking a gap year or not. Just I would encourage anyone to do it. I feel like you get so many just different life experiences, and now seeing that I'm actually growing or getting higher than I was in the past, like I feel like it definitely allows me to know I'm more prepared as a physician, more prepared to go into interviews and be able to talk about how I serve with the community, or why I'm truly passionate about medicine, and all the reasons why I work with different community partners, and see like the root cause behind everything they're experiencing, how everyone was affected during the pandemic. I feel like a lot of people can talk about their experience, their like clinical experience and seeing everything in a hospital, but also just like in any institution, I feel like it's masked. Like you only see one side of it. But now having gone onto the other side and actually doing that direct service and talking to our partners and like what they need and why they're experiencing this, I feel like that's just opened my eyes to so many different avenues I was not even like privy to before, and never even had that opportunity. So I feel like it will certainly help and fuel my aspirations in becoming a physician, and truly giving back to the public like what I would want, not just another stuffy doctor who after they pass their boards are like, oh, I never had to do this again. Like I'm so passionate to continue. Like I actually work with ESWA and at their monthly doctor sessions, and some of their doctors, they have one of each type of doctor. They go and they donate about like 3 hours of their time and just sit with patients who don't even have health care, who sometimes don't even speak English. Like a lot of times we serve as translators, and we explain to them their diagnoses and why they should get this medicine, and why they need to like keep up with their treatments and things like that. I think that's like really what has inspired me, and I would have never had the opportunity had I not like had I had the same mentality of like I just want to truck through everything. I want instant gratification of getting in and like moving on to the next chapter, but not really looking around in the moment and experiencing like, oh, like what is my environment and how do I make the best of it?
Was that all of our panelists? I've been like so caught up in everybody's story. I want to make sure I'm giving everybody a chance. I think that was all of you, right? Okay. All right. So I know that we are running a little bit over, but it sounds like our group is still here with us. So any final tips for our current student leaders or words of wisdom that you would want to share with our students today?
If there's a will, there's a way. If there's a will, there's a way. Like, it doesn't matter. It doesn't, the saying is not if there's a will, there's a way in 10 months, in a year. No, there's a way sometime. It could be next generation, but don't give up. Whatever you want to go after, I have people in my program that are, you know, in their 60s and this is their first semester and they're so hype, and like, that's take on life. Like, you know, if there's a will, there's a way. There might be things in front of you, but there's a way. You just got to find it, and you will.
That was my first one, Manar. So then Manar took my first answer. But my second one would definitely be, and this is going to sound like not crazy, but if you are a student leader at Stockton and you're asked to serve on search committees, do it. Anytime they're hiring for a new position at the campus and they need student input. I was on the committee to hire the new president after SciCamp left. And before they gave Harvey Kesselman came on and, like, you know, stayed as the president of the institution, I was on the search committee to hire Joe Thompson. Like, you know, so like, definitely, please, 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 any search committee you are asked to be on as a student leader, do not say no, say yes to all of it, because your input is listen, people have the degrees at Stockton, people have the positions, and yes, we are so grateful for that. And also your position as a student and the people that they're going to directly serve and they're going to directly impact is a lot more valuable than someone just saying, oh, we like this person because they fit into our office. So please, any search committee you get a chance to serve on it.
I guess the one piece of advice is always ask for help. It's never too late. There's wonderful resources at Stockton that you can always take advantage of. And even if with your classes, if you're falling behind or something's going on, always ask for help. I know that everyone at Stockton is willing to help.
I guess my last piece of advice is, if you've been unsure about a decision and you needed someone to encourage you and be like, you know what, go for it, because it's just out of your comfort zone, this is that sign, like, go for it. I remember the Stockton CSI camp I said I work for, they had never had a counselor who was not a graduate of the criminal justice program. And I had said, I was like, oh, that sounds so cool, I would love to be a counselor. And I had said that to Dr. Tortero and Dr. Duntley. And they actually asked me a couple months later and like, do you want to be one of our camp counselors? And I was like, I don't know, can I get back to you? And they had told me like what the position is and how usually everyone's a graduate of that criminal justice program, how all the experience that they've had and just like knowledge of like our system and like how we can advise students as they go through our summer camp. And I remember going home to my parents and just saying like, I was like, I've only taken one honors criminal justice class ever in my Stockton career. I was like, do you think I'd be ready for this? And that's what I needed, is I needed that person to say like, yeah, just do it, and just have that one supporter to be like, you know what, it's out of your comfort zone, but go for it. And I remember I went back and my mom had said, you can do this. Like, I believe in you. I'm always going to support you. So I want to be that person for other people. If you need support, you can do this. Just go for it. Because I feel like that is one of the best experiences I've had at Stockton too, is just, again, I'm not from a criminal justice background at all, but just all the different experiences that I've had, gone into the autopsy room. I got to try that, what's it called? The electric shock knife at the Air Force station. And what's it called? Got to see all the demonstrations of the police dogs, got to go to one of the local prisons and get to tell my friends, oh yeah, I'm going to prison today to visit. But just having all those experiences I never thought I would. It's only because I asked that one person and my mom was like, yes, do this. And just having that one supporter to push you in that direction, that's what I want to be for others. So this is your sign to go try something out of your comfort zone.
There's a great quote that I live by. The anvil outlasts the hammer. A lot of the activism and work that you do, it's going to be amazing, but take time to relax and check in with yourself, because you can only work so hard before you get burned out. So my advice is take those rest days, those, green matcha oat milk drinks, and all that good stuff.
Wonderful. Well, thank you all so much for sharing your experiences and just carving out time to talk with us today. It's definitely inspiring, both I think for the staff and for the students, to hear about, everything that you did while you were at Stockton, but then also the great work that you are continuing to do continue to do now. And so I really do appreciate you all coming back to Stockton, even if it's just on our virtual campus for right now, but hope we can get you back on our physical campus maybe next year if we do this again. Before we wrap up, I did want to give Courtney a quick opportunity to say a quick hello. Courtney works with our alumni office.
Thank you, Lauren. Hi, I'm Courtney. I'm the Alumni Engagement Coordinator in the Office of Alumni Relations. I'm also a double alumna of Stockton, and I'm here, like some of you graduated and are working here. So I just wanted to take a moment and thank our panelists, who all are so wonderful, and I'm really happy that I was able to sit in and do this. And I'm looking forward to hopefully partnering with you all. I work with alumni in our volunteer programs, and I'm sure that we can definitely connect in the future on additional programs and ways to connect with our students. So thank you all, and it was really, really wonderful.
All right, well, I'm going to stop our recording and say goodbye to our YouTube and Facebook audience.